Today, Emily and I have two previews for you. They're both from Flatout Games. The first one is going to be Point Galaxy, if you're familiar with their Point series. This is the next one in there. It expands it, not quite to the universe, but at least to the
out of
galaxy.
this world.
Oh boy, it's out of this world. The other one is Propolis. This is, I think, their first venture into worker placement. We'll get to that. If you want to jump to that one, check out the timestamps below and jump to that. Otherwise, join us now for Point Galaxy.
So in Point Galaxy, like the other Point Salad, Point City games, we are going to be drafting cards into our own little universe this time.
Or Galaxy.
Or Galaxy. Trying to get different combinations to score different points. The game is simple in that on my turn, I'm just going to be drafting 2 cards, putting them into my galaxy. The cards can be either planets, as you see these 2 rows here, which are going to be a different color and a different number. Some of them can be multicolor, but always just one number. Or it can be a special card, and the other side is going to be either a moon, asteroid, sun, or a wormhole, which are going to do various different effects.
Yeah, like a lot of the other Point games, the cards are 2-sided, and you have, like Emily said, the planets on one side, and those come from this row up here, flipping over. But if you take from this row, you're taking the back side of the card, which are going to be asteroids, suns, moons, and
wormholes.
These wormholes here. Oh, is that an effect or not? These wormholes. As you take these cards, they're going into your sort of play space in different ways. You're building little solar systems. As you can see here, we each got 5 solar systems in our game. When you build a solar system, you can add a sun by itself. You can add planets by themselves. All the different things are going to be added to various solar systems. The only thing you can't add without a sun are the asteroids. The asteroids are effectively, whoever has the most asteroids at the end of the game is going to get the first place points, but you must have suns in order to add asteroids, and you can only add 1 asteroid per sun.
And like most of the Point games, there's spoilers, a lot of ways to get points in this game. So suns can give you points. There are different research tags that can give you points. Asteroids are going to give you points for majority. Moons are going to give you points for what they're next to. But the biggest placement rule is going to be when you're placing out your planets, if you place out one number, once you place another number, it has to go either above it or below it, and that is going to determine your sequence. So if I place the 5 and the 4, now I have to do lower than 4 on this end, higher than 5 on this end. So for example, I've placed this 3 and then a 6 on top of it. I locked myself out of playing the 4 and the 5 because I jumped to that number. So we want to try to get as many of the unique numbers as we can in a solar system for more points, but you're kind of also deciding like which colors do I want for my sun, or which placement do I want for the moon, or do I want that research tag?
Yeah, there are a lot of different little point scoring opportunities that are sort of sometimes and oftentimes competing with each other, because as you get those suns, like Emily just pointed out, as you add a sun, it just adds another point scoring opportunity, but it's exclusive to that solar system. So for instance, in this solar system, I needed a couple moons to get 4 points. If I'd gotten 2 more moons, which I have to say would be a task to get 4 moons in one solar system, but if I did, I'd gotten 8 points. Whereas a lot of the other ones reference different colors or pairings of colors of different things. There is another way to score points, and that are these rocket tokens here. As you place cards, another little icon that you're going to see are these rockets in the right-hand corner. As soon as a player has 5 of the rockets anywhere in their galaxy, they're able to choose one of the available rocket tokens up here that give them very specific scoring situation, and it might fit really well with what they've built already, or at least give them some guidance on how they want to build.
For example, I took this rocket, which is the same as my second sun. It's giving less points because it's looking at the whole galaxy. The sun is just looking at this one solar system. Fortunately, I didn't capitalize on it too much, but that could be that kind of combination that you get.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So you'll get those once you have 5 rockets, and then also once you get 10 and 15 and so on. So you can take a bunch of those, although not too many. You're probably not going to find a lot of those rockets, although you did better than I did.
There are some that have doubles. So I think it just depends, again, what are you going to focus on this? Again, it's one of the point collections, so you can decide which way you want to get your points in this game.
Yeah, so you're basically doing that turn after turn. So when it's your turn, you're going to take 2 of those cards. You don't have to play one and then take the next. You can take one and then the next, and then place both of them. But you're going to be doing that, trying to navigate the puzzle of scoring as many points as possible. And one of those things, again, like I think Emily alluded to, is You're going to look at each solar system, like this one here, and count up the number of distinct planets. And that's the numbers, by the way, not the colors.
Yep.
And that's going to have some scoring chart at the end of the game,
Yep.
as will a lot of the other things.
Yes.
The suns, the moons, the planets, like I just mentioned, along with the tags that you have different ones of.
And the majority for whoever has the most asteroids.
Not to mention those rockets. Once you've added up all those scores, that's the end of the game. Whoever has the high score wins. I would say this is a more complicated version than Point Salad.
Yes, I think
It's
so.
a differently complicated version than
Point
Point City.
City.
Point City added some complications for when you're taking your cards.
Resource management. Yeah.
This one, I think, leans a little bit more on the side of complicating things. And I don't mean complicating in a bad way, but increasing the
Where your thought is going.
challenge and the thinkiness of the game. This is definitely a thinkier game than, say, Point Salad.
Yes.
Point Salad is sort of the bare bones on which all of the salad or point games were built. And this one, I don't think is significantly more complicated than Point City, just in a different way.
Just very different than the other one. Yeah.
So if you have any questions about this, please make them in the comments below. And if you want to know about Propolis, stay tuned for that right now. And with the magic of YouTube, we have Propolis set up here on the table. Like we said, this is got some worker placement.
Yep.
It's not going to feel like traditional worker placement, but you're going to be using these little beeples, the bee workers.
The bee meeples.
To place out on some of these cards to collect resources. You're going to be spending those resources to build some of these structures out here.
Yes.
This is a game where you're going to be effectively, think Splendorish sort of vibes in terms of collecting resources, although you can collect a lot of resources to build these things. And then once you build a lot of these structures, they're going to give you a lot of permanent resources to use. And then you've even got these palaces up here that must be built with permanent resources. The game is going to be played until someone's built 10 cards in front of them, which is going to trigger the end of the game. But on your turn, you can do one of a number of different things.
One of 5 different things. So the basic thing that you're going to do most of the time is you're going to pick a card from one of the rows and decide to put your beeples down on it. So if I pick this card, I can put my beeples down on up to all 3 of these. Each of these spots is going to give me something. So the yellow one's going to give me that yellow resource. The orange one's going to give me that orange resource. There's also some like this that allowed you to trade a resource. And then there's some unique ones as well that allow you to get your other beeples back from the reserve. So it's actually going to allow you to get more meeples. The idea, though, with where you're placing these is important because at the end of any turn, you're going to check for majorities. Obviously, this first turn, there's nothing in majorities. But once we've placed that a few more times, say David placed there, David placed there, and on my last turn, I place 2 here. Then once this row is completed, we would see who has the majority in this row. So each of these peoples is going to be worth 1 point. David has 3 and I have 5. Since I won it, I will get to take all of mine back from that row. The last empty one is going to get discarded and everything's going to get moved down and we're going to get a new card. There are ways, though, to change who has the majority.
Yeah. In fact, when you check for majority, it depends on whose turn it is. If I was the one who triggered that and Emily won the majority, she would also get a bonus wild resource. There's a little wild resource here along with the 5 other resources.
Yep.
If she had been the one who triggered it, she was going to get one bonus wild resource for being placing on one of these landscapes when the whole row was already filled or filling it, but she would not get it then for the majority as well.
Yes.
But there's just a few ways to get those bonus resources. Otherwise, you have to rely on the resources that you're collecting of the standard ones, plus the ones that you have on your built structures.
And you don't just have to put down a new beeple, though. You can also fortify something you already have out. So the second thing you can do on your turn is you can take 2, and they don't even have to be on the same card, and you can fortify them. So when you fortify them, you're going to get the same resources you got at the beginning. So you get a blue, and you would get to do a trade. And now these beeples are worth 2 points each. So
for
now,
the majority.
For the majority. So now David has essentially 5 points in this row. So if I come to it, it's going to be harder to beat him with what he's got out here.
Yeah, and we should point out, too, we have this set up for 2 players in higher player counts. There are going to be more rows here. And these cards that we have out here, just so you know, are dual use. So when cards get removed from here, which they will when we resolve a majority, they're going to be refilled from left to right as things slide down. As we build things here, they're going to be refilled from this same deck. So you're going to have a variety of things coming out, and you're only ever going to know the next landscape card that might come out into the landscapes.
Exactly. The last thing you're going to do with your beeples is, so again, you have a limited supply. At some point you might decide, we haven't resolved majorities yet, and I just want to take some back. You can take as many back as you'd like. So David might decide, I only want to take this one back. So basically these 2 cards, since they already have something on it, are blocked now from me. But he only gets 1 resource back. Or he could say, I want to take all 3 of them back, so that these cards are available to use. But again, then now I can use them, he can use them, and he has 3 more resources.
It's really interesting because unlike most worker placement games, it's not like you're going through this cycle of putting out all your bees and then at a certain point taking them all back. On your turn, you can choose to take, like Emily said, any amount back. It is effectively burning your turn, but keep in mind there are some strategic ways of taking them back that allow you some presence out there for those majorities. So you might take some back, leaving 3 out and leaving effectively 2 spaces left and letting the other player eventually take those 2 spaces, knowing that you will still win those majorities. Because like we've said a couple times now, when you place bees out, you can only place bees out on a card that doesn't have any other beeples on it.
Yes, exactly.
The other thing you can do on your turn that doesn't involve your beeples, well, it might.
Too much.
is to build something. When you're building things, you're going to use a combination of the resources you have, some of your wild resource potentially, and then any of your permanent resources that you may have already built to build any of these structures. The cost of these is on the bottoms of the card. So you can see this one right here is going to take 6 orange, 3 purple, and 1 of your beeples. So that has to come from your supplies. You're going to put that back out of the game effectively. Yep. That is temporary because if you build a structure like this, which is pretty expensive as you can see, you're going to get 4 points at the end of the game, but you'll also immediately get 2 of your beeples back.
Yes.
All of these cards are going to have some sort of point scoring at the end of the game. Some of them are just straight up points. You see this is 1, this is 4, but some of them are also going to give points based on other structures that you've built. You see all the structures have these banners. This one gives me 1 point for every C. So here's a C banner, here's a C banner. So there's a few different things kind of at play when you're selecting what you want to build. Not to mention you've got these palaces up here. Those are what they are. There's 5 of those in a two-player game. So those are going to be up there. You can only build 1 of those, and you do have to build up to that. No one's going to be building those right away because they require just permanent resources. So once you get to that point, you might grab one, and you can see some of these ones were worth 3 points. Here's a couple that are worth 4. Those are effectively just another thing you can build for a significant amount of points.
And they're great because they also have a wild guild, so they have that X on there. That can be considered an A, B, C, D, any of those guilds, so they can help a lot with those different scorings. We also have ones that give permanent resources out here that are wild permanent resources. So those can be used, again, as a permanent resource to build things later for any of those colors. Because at the end of the game, once somebody gets 10 of their buildings built, we'll just finish the round so we have equal turns. And then all we're going to do is we're going to score up any of these points at the top of your buildings, and then any leftover resources you have for at 5 to 1.
Yeah, 5 to 1, which can make the difference. I finished with little to no resources. Emily had quite a few because she had some cards that gave her points for yellow resources, so she stored up a bunch of those for those points and had those extra points at the end of the game. But it is a low-scoring affair.
Yes.
I mean, we were in the high teens. I think you had 20.
Yes.
So it is going to be something that you play. It plays pretty quickly. There can be some thinkiness to this in terms of like trying to really plan ahead and go, okay, I can get that card built, and then I'll have enough with those permanent resources to get another card built. So you can chain together a few turns where you're like, towards the end, where I'm going to build. Okay, I'm going to build again. You know, maybe 2.
Timing is going to be really important though too, because you really want to be able to maximize on when those majorities are going to come in so you can get that just that extra wild resource over your opponent, and that could be just enough to really eke out the win for you.
Yeah, it is really an interesting resource gathering building game built around a pretty unique, light but unique worker placement mechanic where you put these beeples out there and have a lot of flexibility that you wouldn't expect in a lot of worker placement games. But that is Propolis. If you have any questions at all about this or Point Galaxy, please let us know in the comments below. We'll get down there and answer whatever we can. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.